well, a woman of your age should basically just pack it in because it's going to be hell from here. And we're just going to slap some medicine on it and send you out the door. And I was like, oh no, honey, I'm going to be slapping you and sending you out the door on a gurney if you're not careful.
Welcome to Life Gloss, a beauty podcast for sassy and seasoned women who have lived life and have a drawer full of lip gloss to prove it. We're your hosts, Susan Gerdeman
and Hillary Clark-Mina. Join us each Thursday as we discuss life and how it relates to the world of beauty inside and out.
We'd like to interrupt this beauty podcast for an emergency beauty 911 over 40 rant.
Thank you for the introduction, Susan. So I went in to the doctor the other day for two reasons. Number one, I think I may have picked up a little poison oak, poison ivy, hiking off trail. I had a little rashy rash that was driving me bonkers. Plus, I have a suspicious looking spot on my forehead that I would like a referral to a dermatologist for. So I was being responsible. And I will say that given the itchiness around my ankles and legs, I was probably not in the best of moods, but I was holding it together. And as all of our listeners know, we have a very healthy perspective on aging here. And I like to think that I'm approaching 50 with a very open, graceful, sort of a mindset. I like to think that I'm embracing my lines and my wrinkles and the way that my face is changing. After all, I did live in Europe for a number of years, and I think that the way that European women age and embrace and bring just a sexiness and an evocative vibe to their lines and crinkles, I think it's brilliant, and I embrace it, or I think that I embrace it. And then I dealt with the cold hard facts that maybe I'm not as well as adjusted as I thought. Because sitting in this doctor's office, a new doctor to me, he walked in and asked all of the general questions about, where I'd been, what I'd been doing, looked at my ankle, looked at my forehead. And he said, well, a woman of your age, these things just start to happen. And at first I thought, that's an interesting phrase to use, but I kind of let it slide. It didn't really offend me. I just had never been referred to in that way before. It's kind of like the first time someone calls you ma'am. It takes you back a bit. And then again, while talking about the spot on my forehead, he said, well, at your age and a woman of your age. And at this point, I started to think, I am 49 years old. I'm in fantastic shape. I look great, but he's speaking to me as if he's going to order a wheelchair rather than like a cortisone cream and a referral to a dermatologist. And then a third time, as we were getting ready to schedule my follow-up physical, he said, yes, well, for a woman of your age, I would really like to go through all of your vitals. And at this point now, I'm thinking to myself, only one of us is going to leave this room in need of medical attention. And it is likely going to be him, not me, because I just felt, I don't even want to say dismissed, because we hear in the industry that women feel like men don't look at them anymore. They feel dismissed by the industry. We know all those things are changing because we have the biggest purses of all right now and the silver washing and the way that they're pandering to us. But never in my medical history had I felt like he was treating me like a rusty old lawn chair. And it really, really got my goat. I was pissed.
Can I ask, was he younger or older? I'm just curious.
Well, let me tell you about this, because at this point I had gone from Dolly to Weezer in the matter of 20 minutes. And I was having all of these thoughts flashing through my mind, and I was keeping my mouth shut because there was not a single thing I could say. And here's what I will tell you. He was probably about 35 years old, and he was not an attractive man. Had he been attractive, I would have come back with something like, after he said, well, a woman of your age, I would have followed up with, well, a man of your age should have a Mrs. Robinson experience. Or I would have
Ah,
followed up with something like that just to make him giggle and gently remind him that he was being rude. I mean, chivalry with this gentleman ended 3 generations before. Chivalry is not dead. It is not reincarnated. It has been dead, buried, and it was grandfather deep at this point. He just had no couth. And I couldn't believe it because there were so many different ways to phrase this. Like, okay, approaching 50, the mitochondria starts to do this. And, as we get closer to 50, our histamine response to things can be a little bit more rapid. And, the skin has a memory. Once we've hit 40 plus, you start to see dark spots that have been there since our 20s and it's old damage. There were so many ways to phrase what he was saying in a way that, yeah, the body after a certain point starts to behave differently and we have to treat it differently rather than basically just saying, well, a woman of your age should basically just pack it in because it's going to be hell from here and we're just going to slap some medicine on it and send you out the door. And I was like, oh no, honey, I'm going to be slapping you and sending you out the door on a gurney if you're not careful. Like
I am, I
I
am,
I couldn't believe it.
I wish I could say that I'm shocked, but sadly I'm not. And there's so many things to break down out of this rant and conversation, but the one takeaway is, it's respect, right? It's just kindness, it's respect, it's treating someone as a human and a person rather than an object. And that's there's so many levels to the misogyny here, the lack of respect, the disappointment that the fact that he could have made this a really nice experience for you and instead somehow wanted to diminish you. And I think there's so many of our listeners that can relate to this and understand what it feels like. And then they wonder why we don't want to share what's going on with us when we have an appointment. When they ask you, like, what's going on? You're almost embarrassed or you feel shamed or you feel that you don't want to share. So I would say that's bad medicine. I would say that's bad practice. And I would definitely not go back to that doctor again. It's that simple. He lost a client, he lost a patient. Shame on him.
Precisely. The bedside manner was graveside manner. It was unbelievable. And I have a thick skin. I don't need people to pander to me. I don't need people to white glove me. I don't need to be, carried around on a little pedestal. I'm not fragile. And again, but he made it seem like I had nothing to look forward to in life and it was going to be all downhill from here. And I walked in with an irritation on my ankles and a concern on my forehead, and I left with an aggravation and an irritation in my soul. I mean, I will tell you, I have been laughing about this
Right.
I have been
Right.
laughing about this for, 3 days since it happened. I came home and told my husband, I was like, well, he said, what did the doctor say? And I said, well, he revealed that I am a woman of a certain age. And
Right. Well, I
we
mean,
have been dying laughing. He's going to make me a t-shirt with warning signs on it, woman of a certain age.
right. Thank God, Hillary, you have a good sense of humor, and I've always said that a good sense of humor can get you through anything. But sadly, not everyone's in that place. Not everyone has the ability to find humor in even the worst scenarios. Or as I always like to say, beauty in the ugliest of places. But for many of our listeners, I'm sure they've had this happen to them. In fact, comment, let us know, reach out to us. Have you had an experience like this? Have you had ageism, misogyny? Have you had sort of this experience in the medical field as a woman of a certain age? And how did it make you feel? And what did you do about it?
Yeah, we'd love to know. I should also add, and this was no surprise. I knew that I've been on my summer diet, which means lay around and eat and drink whatever I want. So I knew that I was more voluptuous going in than I normally am, and I'm fine with it. But when I got on that scale and I was 4.7 pounds heavier, I didn't think much of it on my way in because I expected it, and that's fine with me. But on my way out, I was so peeved. I kicked that scale like a used car in a car dealership on my way out. I was like, just get me out of here.
Yeah. It's just
like kicking tires.
It's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary, to make someone feel less than. It's
That's
unnecessary.
why.
And I think it's epidemic in the world today. Women, and I'm sure many men have experienced this after a certain age, feeling instead of put on a pedestal and people looking to us for wisdom and looking to us with admiration, you start to sort of feel invisible. And no, I'm never going to be invisible ever. And neither are you.
Never. Never. And that's why I wanted to share this, because as brutal as it was, and as surprised as I was by how offended I was by it, I've had to kind of sit with myself and examine what the hell is going on in my own head and what is my relationship with aging. I get up here and tell everybody I'm okay with it and this, that, and the other. But when you begin to be treated like a senior citizen, like a crumpled up old paper bag, then things shift very quickly. But it is true. Fortunately, I do think it's absolutely hysterical. I am a little indignant. I definitely called my mother, and she's like, "Would you like me to put on my high heels and my fur and go handle this for you?" Anyone who knows my mother knows you don't want that to happen.
No, you don't. No. Yeah.
And I realize that I take this far less more seriously than she does, but maybe that's not a good thing. Look at her, she looks phenomenal. But yeah, I had to share because I think I was able to pull myself out of the tailspin with humor. And fortunately, I have you, Susan, and a partner and friends that find
Yes.
this equally egregious and comical at the same time. But I
Yep.
thought it's our duty to share. And if it's happening to you, just flip the script, and you've got to find the humor in it. I mean, I feel like the next time I go in, if I go back in for my
Oh my
physical,
God. You're not.
no,
You're
listen,
not.
because of my insurance, I have to
Oh
get
no.
referrals. I have to get referrals out of this guy
Oh.
before I can move on. And I'm more concerned with my sunspot than my dignity. So at this point, and he can't touch my dignity anyway. So I can deal with this little twerp.
You know what? I was going to say, you go in there looking your hottest, feeling your best, and know that you win. You win because you're going back, you're getting what you need from him and moving forward. But I think you're going to go in this time thinking to yourself, I'm ready for whatever he's dishing, and you'll be prepared to handle the situation with class, eloquence, and a huge sense of humor.
So do you think it would be too much to walk in with a spray can of epoxy and some duct tape and a little flesh colored paint, and do the whole death becomes her situation?
Maybe it might be a bit much, but it is
a
Los
little
Angeles,
spray on
so I'm sure they've
shellac.
seen it. Yeah.
A little aerosol shellac flesh paint and some duct tape, and just say, "Hey doc, I think I've solved all my problems." And a DVD of Death Becomes Her.
I love it.
All right, listeners, thanks for hearing me out. We're all human here, and we have our good days and our bad days. Tell us all about yours. I want to hear.
And look forward to more rants in the future.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, this might be a ranty summer.
There we go. Cheers to a ranty summer.
Cheers to a ranty summer. Ta-ta.
Meanwhile, find Life Gloss on Instagram and TikTok at lifeglasspodcast.com and on our website, lifegloss.com. You just might catch us live on TikTok. You never know. All right, everybody. Susan, stay glossy.
Hillary, stay glossy.